Sorry, I just need to pull up my presentation here. I closed it when I was having some technical difficulties.
It happens all the time.
What is this? Where is my email?
Well, while James is pulling that up, let me just do a little bit of introduction to you so that we could just keep the ball rolling. My name is Buddy Christopher. I'm with 686 Architects. We're the architects and planners for this project as we go forward. The Pizziferri family, I'm sure everybody in the neighborhood knows. They've been in the neighborhood for a really long time. They've acquired, a fair amount of land in the community, and they want to start looking at the possibility of how to develop it so that it, is good for their family, is good for the neighborhood, and is good for the city. Right now, with me is Joe Jr. and Joe the III, and they're, the principals involved in this project. Okay, James is going to go through the presentation now. I think it's there.
Hold on.
There we go. Show file there.
All right, can everyone see? I apologize about that, some technical difficulties there, but so as Buddy mentioned, the owners is the Pizziferri family, Joe and Joe, and we're the architects, 686 Architects. Our legal counsel is John Barry. He couldn't be here tonight. So as Buddy mentioned, the Pizziferri family has been in the neighborhood for over 50 years. They own several lots around Burrel Street. Tonight we are discussing 84, 86, 88, 90, 96R, 96 to 98, and 100 to 102 Burrell Street. That's our string of addresses on the left side of Burrell Street. In that run, the city of Boston currently owns 92, 92A, and 94 Burrell Street. So the Pizziferris came to our office and wanted to look at the potential of what they could do with this site. And, we noticed the 3 sites in the middle owned by the city. So our intent is to attempt to acquire those properties and to do one development. At this,
as far as those 3 lands from the city, we want to work with the city on that land so that the messages and everything else going by. The land the Pizziferri own surrounds the other 3 parcels.
It's illustrated in the pictures as we move forward, but the point that we wanted to touch on tonight is that at this point, no plans or formal plans have been filed or created. We're at the very beginning of this project, and in the ever-changing environment of development in Boston, we thought it would be advantageous for us and for the community to come out at this point, show you the properties, and hear how the community would prefer to see them developed. Just some site familiarization. This is the corner of Burrell and Norfolk. That's one of the sites in front of us. That's 100 to 102 and 96R. That's looking from Norfolk toward Burrell. It's on the right is Burrell and going towards East Cottage. That's looking Norfolk towards Shirley, so you can see that corner site again. This is looking down Burrell, and that's that range of addresses going down Burrell. And then this is looking back the other way towards Norfolk. So this is the City of Boston Assessors Map. Those green stars indicate the properties that are owned by the City of Boston. The properties outlined in red indicate the properties that are currently owned by the Pizziferri family. Just in summary of the sites, in total, currently the lots that the Pizziferris own is 13,737 square feet. The city-owned square footage is 4,575 square feet. So in combination of all those lots on Burrell, the total square footage would be 18,312.
And this information is coming from the City of Boston Assessing. This is not an instrument survey.
So the point to note there is that with the assessing numbers are based off of quick claim deeds and some assumptions. should the project move forward, we would have the land physically surveyed, and we would have the exact dimensions.
So what we're asking tonight, and this is not a normal process for the way most projects are developed. Usually the development team would come to you with what their ideas were and have you react to that. The Pizziferris have known and lived in this community, and for so many years, they said they did not want to approach it that way. They wanted first to get some parameters from the community before anything gets filed, before anything, becomes record, so that we can start from a good base. We were going to take the information that you hopefully give to us tonight, along with the family's desires about, what their development strategies are, put that together, and we will come back to you, with iterations that hopefully represent everybody's desires in there. As a matter of record, we have had one conversation with Sheila Dillon, because, she is the housing czar of the world. And, we kind of outlined the exact same thing to her, and she thought it was very interesting. She thought it was really good, but she also stated, as we all well knew, DS&I, you have that privilege of having in the zoning that any new building going in the Roxbury area has to go to DS&I. That's not forcing us here. We're here because that's the Pizziferri family's direction. So with that being said, you can see the footprint of these buildings is quite nice. There is, an extreme housing shortage in Boston. We're trying to work with that. At the same time, we do not want to sacrifice neighborhoods. Yours is a neighborhood, or this part of the neighborhood is in transition, as we all well know, between what's going on with New Market, the new residential building down, I think that's what, 5 or 6 stories. The city of Boston is also doing a master plan of the New Market area, with the issues of Melnia Cass and Mass Ave. So all eyes are on it, but we felt that your voice was the one we wanted to really hear first, so that as we go forward and go through the hurdles of permitting a project like this, we want to make sure your concerns are heard first. Is there any questions about any of that stuff? I think that is a no.
Is that your full presentation?
Yes, yeah, that's
Okay.
Largely it. So, what we had hoped tonight was to just have a little bit of a discussion, and hear what the community's desires would be for, when you're looking at a piece of land, that's approaching 20,000 square feet. What type of development, what type of services, if we were to add commercial or retail use to this space. We just kind of wanted to hear your concerns about development, and hopefully that will help us to start from a position that's a little bit more amenable than most cases.
Great. Well, we're going to open it up, and I know there's folks here that have really good history with that space. But before that, I wanted to just ask a couple of questions. In your narrative, you mentioned again the family being engaged with that neighborhood, and so can you speak to that, like just the past community engagement, and also I'm curious, has the family developed in other spaces, developed property in other spaces?
Well, that is, if you want to jump in on that, that's
Well, my father was born at Bachelor Street. I remember the Eclair factory. I remember Justice Bakery. It's on Marshfield Street. We own property around the area. I've been personally in that area since I was 55 years. My father's been there a lot longer. We used to have the oil trucking company on Norfolk Ave. At one time, we had the Top Mix. We owned that property. We bought it from George Reddy's family way back in the 70s. We're involved with City Fresh over on Shirley Street. The 90 people walk to work. That's our complex there. So we're very committed to the neighborhood. We own many pieces of property. We take pride in the property that we have. We manage down there.
Great, thank you. So I'm gonna open it up and see if folks have ideas, questions, what have you. And again, if you can use the raised hand function, otherwise, like really wave your hand and I'll call on you. Yes, Bob. Bob, you're muted right now, so. We can't hear you, Bob. You have to unmute yourself. Or he can't hear me.
I can, Bob, you're muted. I'm gonna try to here we go. I'm hitting ask to unmute, but it's not working. Oh, there we go.
There I am.
Yes, there you go.
This family, the Pizziferris, have been the bane of a lot of neighborhoods in the city, including mine. They bought the property from my neighbor at 29 Virginia Street, told her that they were going to put a family in there. It's a big old house just like mine. And the next thing you know, it's a halfway house. And on Charlotte Ritchie Street, they bought her house and they lie to the community about what they're doing. And then over time, you wind up discovering that it's a halfway house. There's one on Magnolia Street. There's one with a big turret on the front of it that's at the corner of, I forget which is the street that comes down. And so we were party to this obstacle that they have as the only thing that we could do to try to stop the train. But there are countless former houses that were formerly occupied by families that are now halfway houses. And it takes the vitality out of neighborhoods.
All right, so if I might, yes, there's always development in everything going forward. And there's histories on every project and just on every client and developer that we have. Hence the reason we're trying to do what we're doing right now. What we would like to hear is uses that you would like to see into the neighborhood, uses you don't want to see brought into the neighborhood. It's try to develop a strategy that comes forward. Nobody's going to commit to anything at this meeting. We want to hear what's going on. We're going to develop it, and then we'll come back to you with what our proposal is. So we're not asking for a formal approval or endorsement at this point. It's more ideas that with a parcel this big in a neighborhood, what happens to it can change the character and direction of the development. So the reason that we're sitting here today is hopefully to get your input. So what was it, gentleman's name, Bob? I appreciate your concerns. So I think that you don't want any halfway houses in this sort of development.
Yeah, we understand where you're presenting, and so right now, just people are, open to sharing what their experience has been, and then that's what we're trying to get a sense of what other ideas they would like to suggest for this, for these parcels. I see that Jose, you have your hand up, so please.
Yes, I had same concern as Bob. Mr. Pizziferri came before to the SNI. I think my concern is also the entire community is full of houses that that your company bought. All those beautiful homes that we have on Virginia Street and other places, Half a Moon, they are packed with half-away houses. And when there is no money, they have no money, they go and steal things in front of people's house. It's a concern. So as you said, we don't want to see more halfway houses. There are maybe 3 on Burrel Street. They be nice people. They are nice people there, but it is just that a lot of residents been trying to buy them. They cannot it's not available for us. So it's a huge concern. We wanna see houses on those lots that be empty forever. And some business, why not? On Norfolk Ave. But the concern is halfway. Once you build on it, we cannot prevent you from putting halfway houses. The city has no control over it. They've been trying to stop you guys because you hand them to states, but it is not helping the community. So that's huge concern.
Thank you, Mr. Barros, that's so noted. Well, I guess I would ask you, because I know you're feeling so well, dug in the neighborhood. I mean, what kind of uses would you like to see there?
I think some affordable housing, not all of them, because we have people from different level of income. I don't know, business on Norfolk Ave. Don't know if there is space for more business, because the street has a lot of traffic already. But some business will be good, and see if we can bring more people to the community, because we are losing a lot of people. They cannot. Also, the other thing, Mr. Pizziferri, sorry, Dari, promised to bring affordable housing last time, but this affordable housing, unfortunately, they're not for us. If when you build it, if you can have in your mind that the building some houses that we can afford, that people can afford, not just apartments for students, but some families also.
Let me ask you, would you prefer to see condos or rentals?
What is that?
Would you prefer to see condos or rentals?
No, rentals, I think condos, we have some on Roby Street. Unfortunately, they don't talk to us. I don't know if they're still afraid of us. And trying to make them welcome to the community, but they, and the prices of the houses are not for us. I think renters will be good. Condos, if you build condos there, it's not going to be for our community. But it could be, why not? Look into some apartments and that you can, if you can sell them, why not?
Okay. Thank you.
Because once you have homeowners there, they'll take care of the properties.
So it sounds like people definitely are open to housing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other?
If I could,
Yes.
can you hear me? If I could say something again, there are things that could be proposed here, because you're trying to lure me in with ideas about development. Some of them are good, but I just don't trust Miss Pizziferri, because he doesn't do what he said he would. If he did what he said he would, he'd be an ally. But you know, we've been stunned enough times. That's what's scary to me, is that you know, it goes out as one thing and it comes back as another.
Yeah, no, I think I understand the direction you're going in, and, you know, not for this meeting, but there's a whole discussion about halfway houses. And I tend to be very familiar with it, and I understand it. There's pros and cons of it all over the place, and there are programs in place now trying to curb that. But, you know, this is, again, just to reiterate, it's a major project. And I want to make sure that as we go in, I mean, you know, the idea of turning this, you know, this whole parcel into halfway houses is not something that I think is very realistic, and I don't think the Pizziferris are going down that road. They're looking for the best use, you know, both for the family and for the community. And, you know, but as I said, we haven't done many meetings like this before we even start putting pencil to pen, the pencil to paper, to get things rolling. So, again, you know, we're hoping for this to be more of a generalized discussion. You know, we figure 35 stories is okay. No response to that?
No, it's not easy to tell you right now, unless we see the building. It's not easy. It might be a lot.
We are not
Just
proposing
without
36 stories, just so-
without the design, not easy to. I have a question first. Those three that belong to the city,
Mhm.
you're gonna include them in also in your project?
Well, what we're hoping to do is to work out a relationship with the city, because as we all know, the new administration is all about housing. And you know, this area of Boston is one area that's really been targeted to try to improve and to get better quality. So in our discussions, we will talk to the city about trying to develop it so that there's, you know, it's one contiguous site. But the city is gonna weigh in because, you know, they've got a vested interest of those three sites. So, the answer is yes, we have to sit and work with the city. I mean, you know, right now, the Pizziferris could develop all of the other parcels. They own them, and, you know, they're ripe for development. But we think that the overall thing would be very interesting to see if we could develop the whole area. You know, there's the opportunity for a bit of open space, and for amenities that would be beneficial to the neighborhood.
I know the last time they said no.
I'm sorry,
Last time they said no,
who said no?
the city. It wasn't an official ask, but there was an idea of asking the city, and they said no.
Yeah, and again, you know, I know that was a while ago, but, you know, administrations change, directions change. You know, our city has changed, you know, in the past 10 years, we've brought in, you know, almost a new 100,000 residents into our city. So the dynamic of what's happening in our city is very, very different than it was even 10, 15 years ago. And the city is trying to address that. And, you know, as somebody that has control of, you know, a fair piece of land, the Pizziferri family wants to make sure that the city's agenda is addressed as part of this, along with the community.
So I know there's a couple folks that have raised their hands. Jose, are you take yours down, please? But William, you had your hand up, so unmute yourself and thank you.
Thank you, Marcos. Hi, everyone, local resident. You know, comments about not knowing what, I mean, it's really hard to discuss a theoretical project. This could be anything. So, you know, the point about having something to really talk about here other than what it could be, you know, and the history's fit, the history of the family notwithstanding, just looking at Google Maps here, like I you know, everybody would love to see, I think, a row of passive house triple deckers that are all affordable, you know, full of homeowners that are participants in the neighborhood. Obviously that would be great. You know, and I think that would, I mean, that would be an awesome sort of study to see if that would work, because your development overhead for land has got to be nothing other than taxes. So I would imagine a slightly more less of a typical developer project would be feasible, because you know, have a lower overhead. But just playing typical economics here for a second. If you were to do something that's more of a run-of-the-mill multifamily development, it's common to see some degree of ground floor commercial, and in this portion of the neighborhood, it's obviously not anything that could be retail oriented. So I guess my question is, aside from just the residents of the community and interfacing at the neighborhood level with the people that live here with the residential component, if you were to propose something that is more traditional multifamily, you would have to partner up with some local businesses in some way, because this is all industrial, as you know, and the city's stance with the Newmarket area is trying to foster some measure of clean, forward-thinking, not necessarily technology driven, but 21st century industry, and that would be great at a bird's eye level, but looking at Google Maps here, it's really close to a bunch of residents. So I guess when you come back, I would be curious to see how you would propose interfacing at a business level if you propose something that's multifamily. Otherwise, a bunch of zero energy passive house triple deckers that are affordable would be great to counter your 36-story option.
Fair enough. Thank you, William.
Thank you, William. Bruce, do you want to just share like insight to your comments on chat? Mr. Shatswell. Minnie, you had your hand up as well, so
Yeah, I just noticed Maria said in the chat, I agree with Jose Barros. I just wanted Maria, because Jose said a few things, if you wanted to clarify that. Or if it was every single thing he said.
So, until we hear from Maria or from Bruce, if they're going to speak, I also had a question just in general about your desire to move forward with developing the parcels that you own if you were not to get the 3 city-owned parcels. Is that something that you're also considering?
There's all the possibilities on the table right now. In light of the current construction cost index, which is through the roof, contiguous parcels are by far more economical to develop. And we think that, as I say, acquiring those 3 parcels gives us an opportunity to do other things, like in the form of some green space that, is slowly lacking everywhere in Boston.
Got it. Thank you. Well, unless there's additional suggestions, ideas for what folks would want to see, or the presenters have additional questions, perhaps that they'd want to have answered, we're gonna wrap this up and thank you for sharing your sort of thoughts. And
James has put his email up in the chat. So if anyone has any questions or comments that they would like to share privately, not publicly, please feel free to contact us.
Okay. I was gonna, also, I mean, I understand this is, you're attempting to approach this a little bit differently and coming here first. And I know deeper abutter engagement is required later in the development process anyway, but I think, to get more ideas just with a really clean slate about what to see there, have you approached any neighbors? Have you done any door knocking at this point, or any conversations with people on the street?
We were always directed and understood that, you should direct us through DSNI because, you are the voice of the community. So that's our first step, was to come to you. We have not done any canvassing.
I think it's gonna be, as it was stated earlier, very I mean, beyond sort of the housing and some very specific type of business use. Um, I think that it is important to sort of have something more concrete in front. I mean, and
That's no problem.
yeah.
Yeah, I think our intent with this process is to continually work with your group as we develop the plans. So when we come back, our intent will be to have something to look at, to discuss, and then we'll develop it from there.
Great, thank you.
And, just as a matter of process, the design process is just that. Like, as we build this thing and we have these discussions, we'll continue to revise it and to work with your group so that at the end of the day, we can have a viable project for everybody.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. And, I would second Minnie's just suggestion because, some of those abutters or people across the street, experience that area of our neighborhood at nighttime, at daytime, and so, I welcome more eyes on that street, right? I live a few blocks over, but right on the edge of the New Market district. And so, yeah, I welcome other eyes, and interest in stake in the neighborhood. So, housing is definitely a way to go. And what kind of housing and how affordable kind of housing, that's the bigger question. So, we look forward to engaging further. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, folks. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so our folks, we're going to move on to the next presentation.